Hello there, welcome to the 4th episode of Wicked Weather Wednesday. This is my series that I do bi-weekly where I talk about a weather event. At the moment I have been focusing just on tornado events. I will eventually broaden my horizons and talk about other things, but tornadoes are one of my biggest interests in life. I have always been interested in tornadoes. I don't know why. I don't know how it come about. I'm gonna blame the film Twister, to be honest with you. That is one of my favourite films, and it kind of just spiraled from there ever since I was a kid. In today's Wicked Weather Wednesday video, we're going to be talking about a tornado event that happened in Oklahoma. Oklahoma is pretty well known for its tornado activity. I think most people around the world know that Oklahoma is a hotbed of tornadoes, and actually the film Twister was based in Oklahoma as well. The tornado that I'll be talking about in today's video is probably one of the most known tornadoes to come out of Oklahoma. It's one that meteorologists and scientists still speak about today, and that is the 2013 Moore tornado that happened on May 20th. As this happened in 2013, technology was way more advanced than it was in the past two Wicked Weather Wednesday video that I have done, where I talked about tornado events that happened in 1925 and 1980. Also, along with this, back 8 years ago, I think it was, hang on, I cannot do math. Yeah, 8 years ago, most people did have access to either cameras or camera phones. They weren't as popular as they are today, where pretty much everyone has a camera phone, but for the most part a lot of people did have camera phones, so the amount of footage from this tornado is insane. Like, YouTube has so many videos on it, and also as technology is a lot better, the news broadcast footage is also a lot more prevalent, so to say. Like, in comparison to the two past Wicked Weather Wednesday videos I did that were from 1925 and 1980, the only sort of footage I could find was the odd news clip here and there and the odd photo. The footage and photos I have found from this tornado is just, it's just insane. And I was shocked because I was looking through it all. I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I'm not going to be able to include all of this. Like, there is so much more information and data for this tornado. I also witnessed this tornado myself. Obviously I wasn't in Oklahoma at the time, but I would class myself as like a backseat tornado chaser. So a lot of storm chasers actually live stream when they go out and, you know, investigate tornadoes. So if there's a huge outbreak of supercell storms, they'll go out with either like a camera and a full-on setup, or they'll just use their phones and do like an Instagram live kind of deal, or on Facebook. But back in 2013 there's a few websites that were dedicated to storm chasers and then broadcasting their storm chasing escapades, if that's what you want to call it. But yeah, I witnessed this tornado. I remember watching a few live streams, like I was hopping between some, and I remember seeing this. And I have seen a few tornadoes as and when they've happened, but for the most part a lot of storm chaser live streams are very much them just driving around, and it's pleasant to see, and they're all very enthusiastic, talking about like what's going on the weather radars and all of that. But yeah, I witnessed some of what happened. It was a case of, because I was hopping around so much and there were so many storm chasers like in the area, one stream would be like quite up close of the tornado, and then another one would be like quite far away, and they were just kind of going towards it, and then I would see a storm chaser just driving through more after the tornado, and you could just see the destruction that this tornado caused. It was a lot. Anyway, I digress once again, I do apologise. But yeah, let's get on to what happened on May 20th of 2013. Moore is a city in Oklahoma. The population now is around about 62,000. There's a lot of people that live there. Unfortunately, Moore is located in Tornado Alley. It's kind of slap bang in the middle of it. I haven't actually spoke about Tornado Alley as of yet in this series. Long story short, in America, from northern Texas and Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, and South Dakota, they are more prone to tornadoes than anywhere else in America. Obviously, tornadoes can happen outside of this area, and they do, but tornadoes are a lot more prevalent in this banned. Anyway, this tornado happened on a Monday. For the 2 days prior to the Monday, which is obviously a Saturday and the Sunday, Moore and the surrounding areas saw a lot of extreme weather when it comes to hail, thunderstorms, lightning, torrential rain. I don't know if any of you guys have seen how big hail can get in America. Obviously, if you live in America, you might know. But it's like, it can be like the size of a baseball. The hail in itself is just as dangerous as the tornadoes. If you get hit by one hail that is like this big, that can knock you out. That could do some serious damage.
Oh, you okay? Oh, back window.
Glass everywhere.
So obviously the residents of Moore were kind of like on high alert because the weather was so erratic. None of this compared to what was going to happen on Monday. And of course on Monday the weather wasn't much different to what it was at the weekend. It was pretty touch and go. A huge storm system come into play and a tornado watch was issued at around about 2 p.m. A tornado watch is basically a warning to say, hey, you need to be vigilant. We can see some activity within the storm cell that could produce a tornado. So just be vigilant, you know, listen to the radio, watch the news, check social media, just to be careful and keep up to date with what is happening with the weather. And because of this, all of the local news stations dedicated their airtime to the weather. And this is something that I truly love about America. One, that they have a load of local news stations. Like, that is unheard of in England that I know of, but America seems to have so many different local news stations, and then they take the weather so seriously over there, which obviously they have to, because the weather in America is deadly a lot of the time, especially with like tornadoes, hurricanes and all of that. But I myself have actually watched live streams of local news stations when there has been like a huge tornado outbreak or there's some serious storms happening. You can sometimes sort of find them on the internet or use a VPN to watch them and stuff, and they just go full on all out about the weather. You'll have storm chasers that get interviewed. They'll have live streams of, you know, people that are stationed near these areas and news crews that will go out to the area in which there is a tornado warning or watch or whatever. Like, they're so quick. It just blows my mind, and I honestly admire just how passionate they are about it. And I believe that because of this and because of how technology has advanced, this kind of coverage saves lives. Also in 2013, a lot of people had access to social media and live updates, so even if someone wasn't using social media, you can still check news websites and there'll always be live updates very quickly. There's also a lot of meteorologists that use social media, and they would give live updates, what's happening with the storm cell and if a tornado has touched down and the location that the tornado's in, as and when it's happening. And yeah, stuff like this truly does save lives. Anyway, the storm system got angrier and angrier as time went on. Rotation clouds started to happen. That's basically when the storm cell starts to rotate and then like a funnel starts to take shape. But that led to a tornado warning being issued at 2:42 p.m. A tornado warning is a lot more severe than a tornado watch. A tornado warning is basically to say, hey, there is a very high chance that a tornado is going to touch the ground, so please, if you can, take shelter. Make sure you keep updated with the weather in any way, shape or form that you can, and just be extra vigilant and don't do anything stupid, you know, like go take your dog for a walk or something, you know.
Reed is intercepting this storm right here with a tornado warning. Please do not take this lightly. Conditions today are favorable for large, long track, potentially violent tornadoes.
This was obviously happening on a Monday afternoon, so everyone was at work or at school. Panicked parents decided to go collect their children from school early, which I can completely understand why you would want to do that, but it just causes more chaos and panic. And schools in America, in areas where tornadoes are quite prevalent, they'll have like a tornado drill, so they'll practice, you know, in case a tornado comes, and they have areas within schools where they can hide safely, whether it be a bathroom, a corridor, a closet. All of this is taken into place, especially, you know, somewhere like Oklahoma where tornadoes are very frequent. But yeah, I can understand why a parent would be like completely freaked out and want to, you know, go collect their child. So that child is in their possession, so to say. At 2:56 p.m, a tornado finally touched down. It didn't hit Moore directly straight away. It first touched down near a place in Oklahoma called Newcastle. At first the tornado was a F1. It was pretty weak.
Travis, go to your right real quick. Go to your right. Zoom in right there, zoom in. Come back to your left, iris up. There it is, Mike.
There it is.
If that is a tornado, there it is. It's right there on the ground. That's the clearest definition that we've seen from the air. A definite cone on the ground.
It started off as a very small rope tornado.
Developing tornado. There you go. You see it? There you see it. Now it's on the ground.
There's different, I don't know, how do you say it, like different styles of tornadoes. It's obviously not fashion, but you know, like sometimes a massive wedge tornado will form straight away, or you can get very skinny like rope tornadoes. This one started off very small in like diameter, and as it traveled it got bigger and bigger and bigger, which again can happen obviously.
This is going to be moving in your direction.
Should be coming up on 37, but it's violent now. We're in the high-end EF3 range on this tornado. And
34th Street. This is a large tornado on the ground. We hear the tornado sirens. They are going off.
Damon, this is going F5 right now.
We've got a map here to show the path of what the tornado took. So as you can see, Newcastle was down there on the bottom left. You can see that the tornado took a path from the sort of Newcastle area, then to the south of Oklahoma City, and then it got stronger in Oklahoma City, even more stronger as it hit Moore, and it went through a lot of Moore, and then it sort of dispersed outside of Moore. So yeah, like I was saying, it went through the south side of Oklahoma City.
You want to get underground if you can. With a storm like this, you definitely want to try to get underground.
And Oklahoma City has a population of over 640,000 people. Should this tornado have taken a different path, this tornado would have caused a lot more damage, a lot more injuries, and a lot more deaths. Obviously what this tornado did in itself was catastrophic, but it could have been a lot worse. As you could also see from that map, the tornado grew from an EF1 to an EF5 very quickly, and in a lot of areas it did EF5 damage, so it was rated as an EF5 tornado as a whole. Winds got up to and maybe even over 200 miles per hour. The tornado grew to about 1.08 miles wide. Again, I can never fathom seeing something that big. It's just huge. The tornado was on the ground for about 45 minutes. It traveled for about 17 miles, and at one point radar data indicates that the tornado got smaller and did a complete loop near the intersection of Southwest 4th Street and Telephone Road, which is super bizarre, and what caused this is completely unknown. The tornado eventually landed in Moore around about 3:20 p.m.
Thick debris, as you would imagine, with an F4 tornado plus going through Moore right now.
But that's it right there, going through Moore. A huge tornado there, Mike.
We are in Moore, Oklahoma, and we have a tornado to our west. Dear God, please keep these people safe. Look at the debris.
Many eyewitnesses of the tornado described it as evil, menacing, and black in colour. As you can imagine, a tornado this strong caused damage you can't even think about without seeing pictures. Like, you cannot imagine how bad it is until you see pictures and footage of just how bad this tornado messed everything up.
It's safe to assume that none of these power lines are going to be live at this point.
Oh my God. This is the damage path right now. Houses are completely leveled.
It flattened whole neighborhoods.
If you guys can see this, I don't know how to explain it, how to describe it. And you can see all the housing additions that are, all this house right here is completely destroyed.
There are people's homes that are completely gone, and it's really painful. to see that they don't have anything left.
You can see the path that the tornado took from aerial footage. You can just see a clear, you know, path of destruction. Like I was saying, looking at footage, looking at pictures of what this tornado did, it's heartbreaking.
As kids run up to hopefully their loved ones.
And like, it really made me sit and think, like, if you grew up in this area, everything you had known for your whole life has been destroyed. To have a property that you own destroyed, to most people, houses aren't just somewhere where you live and sleep. It's a place where you have created so many memories, you know, birthdays, Christmases, holidays, celebrations, heartbreaks, children growing up, parents getting old. There is so much to a house. It's not just the house as well, like the whole area you like grew up in, you lived in, started a family in, that has all been destroyed. You know, you don't really think about it, but when you think about like where you grew up and stuff, like, can you just imagine that being destroyed? It would be heartbreaking. There's so many memories of where you live, you know, like going to the playground when you're younger, taking a walk with your friends, having picnics, celebrating, you know, again, Christmases, holidays and all of that, going out for food, dinner, you know, like you take all of this for granted and you don't think it's ever going to be taken away from you. And all it takes is like a couple of minutes and a tornado to destroy everything you know. And then for it to never be the same again. I just don't know how I could deal with that. I don't know how people do deal with it. It is honestly just heartbreaking and devastating. Many cars were picked up and thrown miles away from where they were first situated.
A car sitting on top of what used to be a house. Who knows if that was even that person's car?
Trees were literally lifted up from the ground and chucked everywhere, which is also a huge hazard because if you get hit by a tree, you don't stand a chance. Roofs and parts of buildings were also picked up and scattered everywhere. Again, a massive flying hazard. Moore Medical Center was severely damaged by the tornado. It pretty much took a direct hit.
The May 20th tornado delivered a direct hit on the facility, nearly leveling the structure. Winds topping 200 miles per hour slammed into the building, blowing the hospital's doors open and scattering debris throughout the entryway.
There was estimated to be around about 300 people in the building at the time. Staff had moved as many patients as possible into the center of the medical center. That's where the building is a bit more structurally sound in comparison to being by a window. One woman was actually in labor while all of this was happening. She had had an epidural, so obviously she could not walk. Like, oh my god, I know I keep saying about how like scary and devastating this is, but I just cannot imagine being in labor and to have had an epidural where you're paralyzed from sort of like the waist down. You're like beyond helpless at this point. Luckily, 3 nurses stayed with this woman the whole time. Luckily, the woman was safe and she gave birth later that day. Due to how badly the medical center was damaged, it ultimately had to be demolished. Sadly, among the hardest hit areas was 2 schools. The name of those was Briarwood Elementary School.
Take a look at this dramatic before and after. This is Briarwood Elementary, the before. Now look at the after this morning. We've learned it was an EF5 as it hit that school.
5th grade teacher Robin Dietzick capturing the moment of impact on her cell phone. That 5th grade teacher took ABC's David Muir back to where she and her students had huddled together.
25 girls in here and several teachers. And Towers Elementary School. Like I was saying earlier, many parents had rushed to the schools in Moore and the surrounding areas to collect their children to try and get them to safety. By the time the tornado hit Plaza Towers, there were still 75 students left in the school along with teachers, so there were 75 people in total, some of which were students and were teachers. I made that very long-winded. The school was directly hit by the tornado.
The front of Plaza Towers Elementary School, you can see again, we've said it before from the air, this school is basically gone. It's totally destroyed.
Overnight, authorities finishing their search of Plaza Towers, also promising to search every home here, every building 3 times.
Most of the students and teachers that were left in the school took shelter in closets, bathrooms, and hallways.
A couple of kids that were in this school at the time, they were literally hugging the walls.
Third grade teacher, her name was Jennifer Doan, and she had 11 students with her to keep safe. She and her students hid in a hallway, and unfortunately the tornado made the walls collapse, and ultimately it collapsed on top of them. Doan was also 2 months pregnant at the time with her 3rd child. She suffered severe injuries to her back, but she survived and the baby was fine also. Rescue teams managed to pull her out and 5 of her students. Unfortunately though, 7 children died at the school as a result of the building collapsing.
You know, at the time this tornado occurred, I mean, we lost our children. We lost children.
This morning, a puzzle remains. How did 2 schools take a direct hit? Both buildings devastated.
Like, I hate how this plays out. The school was so damaged that it had to be completely knocked down and rebuilt.
The elementary schools destroyed by the storms are being rebuilt, bigger and stronger.
At first, the death count was reported at 91 people, but the reason why the death count was so high is there was a miscalculation, and the final death toll was 24 people. More than 300 people were injured.
It looks like it's roping out a little bit, and this is over like 149th Street and maybe just the east side of Air Depot Road. There it is. It's gone, Mike.
The EF5 tornado caused around about $2 billion worth of damage, and there was 12,000 truckloads of debris that was removed from the affected areas. Federal Emergency Management Agency deployed urban search and rescue teams to the affected areas. The Oklahoma National Guard was also sent in to help as many people as they most possibly could.
The National Guard has arrived. I do have reason to believe that they have found some victims.
There were so many people trapped under rubble and debris. With people being trapped under very heavy objects, you're on a time crunch. It's literally a matter of life or death when it comes to freeing people that are trapped. The Governor Mary Fallin requested assistance from the then President Barack Obama, who declared the tornado as a major disaster and ordered federal aid to the affected areas.
As we all know by now, a series of storms swept across the plains yesterday in one of the most destructive tornadoes in history. Last night, I issued a disaster declaration to expedite those resources and to offer direct assistance to folks who have suffered loss. That Oklahoma needs to get everything that it needs right away. Yesterday, FEMA activated urban search and rescue teams from Texas, Nebraska, and Tennessee to assist in the ongoing search and rescue efforts.
Obama did a what's the correct word to call it? I would say like a tour of the affected areas on May 26th. That's 6 days after the tornado, which is pretty normal. A lot of people do see that as kind of strange, like why wouldn't you go as soon as possible? But the main priority after a tornado is making sure you rescue as many people as possible, provide medical aid to those that need it, and assistance to those that need it. You don't want a huge public figure walking on in with tons of cameras while the area is in such disarray, and then to have, you know, someone like the president be a huge distraction. You want to make sure that you do the first initial search and rescue, clean up, what have you, before the president comes, so you can focus on just helping people. You know, it's going to be bad enough that there's going to be people driving on through to gawk at what is happening. You'll have a lot of news crews, which for the most part, most of the news crews are trying to do good by reporting on it, showing what's happened, so you know people can see that are kind of outside of the area that weren't affected. You'll get people going in to help. You'll also get people going in to loot, which just makes me feel disgusting that people will try and take advantage of this horrific event. So yeah, it's best to try and keep stuff as calm as possible. You know, you don't want the president being there.
Obviously, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Let me begin by just saying that whenever I come to an area that's been devastated by some natural disaster like this, I want to make sure everybody understands I'm speaking on behalf of the entire country, letting everybody here know that you are not alone, that you've got folks behind you. Universities have opened up There are buildings for temporary housing, and local companies have pitched in. It's going to take a long time for this community to rebuild.
When the president arrived in the area, he requested to meet with some of the forecasters from the Norman Forecast Office and the Storm Prediction Center. And the reason for this is because he wanted to thank these people for pretty much saving possibly hundreds, if not thousands, of people's lives. Like I was saying earlier, as technology has advanced, warnings are given out way more in advance. Should these tornado watches and tornado warnings not have been issued and people didn't take shelter, I can't even, it's just unthinkable of what would happen. It's bad enough that, you know, a whole city is pretty much destroyed, but thankfully, you know, it sounds so bad to say, oh, you know, it could have been worse, because that to me sounds like I'm, you know, not thinking about the people that were hurt or, you know, killed in this. But, you know, it could have been a lot worse. Alongside this EF5 tornado, there was 14 other tornadoes that day alone in just Oklahoma. Luckily, those tornadoes were pretty much just out in like fields, you know, doing their own thing. There was no injuries or deaths caused by these tornadoes. But this select one, the EF5, did enough, you know. The affected areas slowly started to recover as days went on.
Well, we're storing all the things that have been collected through donations, whether it's corporate or people just dropping stuff off.
You know, we're all going to stick together and everything will work out. Everything is going to work out.
Recovery takes time and money.
But now, 8 years later, people have pretty much got back on their feet. You know, houses have been rebuilt, buildings, businesses have been rebuilt, schools have been rebuilt, medical centre has been rebuilt. With this amount of destruction, nothing would ever be the same again. But it just takes a strong amount of people to say, you know, I'm going to stay here and we're going to create new memories. The community spirit from areas that are affected by tornadoes just blow my mind. I don't know how people do it, because I would have the temptation to just get up and leave and find somewhere else to live, you know. You're so rooted in where you live, you know, I can imagine that sort of spurs you on to want to continue living there and help everyone else out, you know. Everyone just comes together and helps everyone, which I admire so much. And yeah, this whole tornado event, just it's a huge one. It's massive. And yeah, my thoughts will always be with Oklahoma and affected areas and other states that are affected by tornadoes, and, you know, the families. And oh boy, I've had a few people message me since I started this series saying, oh, you know, I live near a so-and-so area, or I've seen a tornado, I've lived through a tornado. Yeah, thank you for reaching out and stuff. So I'm gonna go now. Thank you so much for watching, and until my next video, or until my next Wicked Weather Wednesday, stay safe, and yeah, bye.